For a more complete story of the beaver, why not contact the Canadian Wildlife Service in Ottawa?
Babes, there are a few things that hurt my soul so much as a little thing called victim blaming. I'm going to be talking about sex crimes in this video, but victim blaming has all kinds of applications. The mentality is that by engaging in certain behaviors, they asked for it to happen.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. However, pointing out that someone took actions that led to a specific event occurring isn't victim blaming. It's simply pointing out why something happened. Now, Laci, I hope you're not going to mix these two up. I mean, what am I saying? Of course you are.
This is how bizarre victim blaming sounds to me. Your identity was stolen? Why were you using a credit card? If you had used cash, this never would have happened.
Yep, and while people may find it distasteful, it's 100% correct. If you don't want your identity stolen, using things like cash will in fact prevent exposure to things like this. That's not victim blaming. It's simply sound advice. I mean, is telling children not to talk to strangers or to not get into their car victim blaming as well?
The problem with blaming the victim is that it's the predator that caused the crime, not the victim or their clothing or their pictures. Fun fact, actually it's not that fun. Crimes happen when perpetrators choose to violate someone. Rape, sexual assault, theft, harassment, non-consensual distribution of sexual photos. Those are all decisions that someone made to violate another person.
Crimes occur when an individual has motive and opportunity to commit the act. If you're missing one of those things, then typically the crime will not happen, or at least does not happen in the way it originally would have. This is why people lock their doors. This is why people tell their children not to trust strangers. You directly remove an element of opportunity from the criminal. You make it more difficult to complete that crime. It's very important that people understand the ways they expose themselves to crime. When they do, they'll usually take actions that will prevent them from being victims.
There are 5 big problems with blaming the victims of sex crimes. First and foremost, and what I feel should be the most obvious, is that it protects sexual predators.
Okay, so let's think about this. Can you provide me with some examples of victim blaming there, Laci?
Common blameworthy offenses include going out at night, taking nude photos, wearing tight clothing, short skirts, being promiscuous, getting drunk.
That's a real hodgepodge of examples there, Laci. Some of these could be used to excuse the rapist, such as she was wearing tight clothing, he couldn't help himself. But guess what? That doesn't happen these days. Maybe back 50 to 70 years ago, but not today. The other things you mentioned can in fact contribute to being a victim of a crime. Getting blackout drunk, for example. You're essentially leaving yourself open to whatever comes your way. But even then, these actions would not excuse a criminal's behavior.
When we say absurd things like men can't control themselves, it enables those who are choosing to commit crimes. They know they'll be dismissed, coddled, protected. They won't be held accountable.
Yep, rapists are coddled. I totally see that.
That's got to change. Number 2, this is how, instead of preventing crime, victim blaming actually invites more crime.
Considering your definition of victim blaming includes advice on how not to be a victim? No, it doesn't.
Number 3, victim blaming makes it hard for justice to be served. Those real life attitudes are in Congress, they're in police forces, they're splattered across the media. They're bearing down on the brave survivor who's decided to seek justice when the cross-examiner asks her how short her skirt was.
I like how you cherry pick one example, but yet try and lump all victim blaming together as if it's one big thing. I mean, you have to remember that you're also the person that said it was victim blaming for someone to be out late at night. So the fact that someone was late out at night, that'll cause the entire justice system to look down on that person and not convict that criminal? I don't think so.
Number 4. In the context of sex crimes, victim blaming often fuels misogyny. Sometimes I hear people talk about how she needs to face the consequences for her actions. In this bizarre mindset, violation is framed as a deserved punishment, usually for a woman who's stepped out of line. In this way, victim blaming creates this never-ending list of rules that women are supposed to abide by in order to have their humanity respected. I mean, shit, we're taught from the time that we're little girls to fear men's attacks if we do something wrong. Like, how sick is that?
This is the core problem with feminism today. They want to advocate responsibility for their own safety. And they want to see information on things they should do to protect themselves as impositions. For example, like using the buddy system, or wearing anti-rape nail polish, or taking self-defense. Things that they can reasonably do to help ensure their safety, that's actually an imposition. That's actually an oppression.
And why are we so quick to defend men's freedom, including the freedom to commit crimes, while handing women a long list of restrictions on our everyday lives?
Hate to break this to you, Laci, but you know that list you gave a little while back? Men have to be concerned with a large number of those as well.
Lastly, number 5, when we live in this culture that's hell-bent on blaming the victim, it should come as no surprise that the victims blame themselves too. There's a whole series of mental gymnastics that rape survivors go through. What did I do wrong? How could I have prevented this from happening to me? Reality is, they did nothing wrong. The predator was wrong.
Yes, the predator was wrong. But that doesn't mean that the victim couldn't have taken actions that would have prevented this from occurring. It's like you want to take all the knowledge about crimes, how they happen, why they happen, and just toss that away. To sit back and pretend that there aren't any common threads, that there aren't intelligent things that people can do to prevent themselves from being victims. And you want to treat all advice that is designed to help people not be victims as victim blaming. And that's just asinine and destructive.
You have a right to safety and respect no matter what.
Everyone has a right to be safe, to be secure in their person. But for some odd reason, those who seek to hurt you really don't care what's written on a piece of paper. They just do it anyways. Victim blaming, as described by Laci, seeks to offload responsibility from an individual and make it into an oppression. You are the only one responsible for your safety. You're the only one that can ensure that you're not exposed to those who wish you harm.
Every time I see someone blame the victim, it just eats me up inside. You deserve so much better.
I agree. People do deserve way better. Unfortunately, that's not you, Laci. Thanks again for watching. If you liked the video, please share, comment, or subscribe. Have a good one.